Welcome to the Putting the Public into Health podcast by Dr. Richard Pan. As we face one of the greatest public health disasters in a century, this podcast will address questions and issues from you, the public, about the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on people's health and lives. I am Dr. Richard Pan. I'm a physician with a background in public health, and I'm proud to represent the people of Sacramento, Elk Grove, West Sacramento, and parts of Sacramento County in the California State Senate. I want to share with you important information and stories to help each other during this difficult time. With COVID-19, the NBA suspended the season in March, but the Sacramento Kings look to return to the court on July 31st in Orlando. While we certainly miss seeing our team at Golden One, off the court, the Kings have been busy helping our community addressing racism. To tell us how the Kings are doing, I'm very excited to have Galen Duncan, Vice President of the Kings Academy of Professional Development, join me. Galen is a health psychologist who supports the players both on and off the court. Thank you so very much, Galen, for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Pan.
So tell me, how did you get involved with the Sacramento Kings, and what is your role with the team?
Sure. Well, I'm a native Detroiter, born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I spent a number of years there, did most of my schooling in that area, all of my high school and college in that area. I went to Wayne State University for my master's degree, Lake Superior State for my undergraduate degree, and then I went to Walden University to get my PhD. I came out this way after working 11 years in the NFL, working for the Detroit Lions, and wanted to switch back to basketball as I previously had worked for the Detroit Pistons early in my sports career.
Mm-hmm. Now, after the NBA suspended the season, what have the players been doing during the pandemic?
You know, it's been one of those things where guys have tried to create or keep their rhythm, mm-hmm. or keep the normacy of things, you know, trying to keep things normal. Of course, things have been very different for all of us, but they've continued to train, work out. They've also been, afforded spending some times with their family, so that's not necessarily been a bad thing. They've been able to connect with their children. They spend a lot of time watching TV, Netflix, and things like that, and playing video games, and more or less waiting for this thing to get back to normal. But they've been very, very, our staff has actually been very, very about making sure that they have everything they need. We sent them basketball hoops. We sent them weights. We sent them everything they needed to continue their training during the off part of that season.
Now, I think many of us have the experience of being away from work or, unfortunately, perhaps even furloughed or laid off, being in a situation where you're sort of going back and forth between, sort of sitting around and trying to get things done. Now, basketball players, they have to have tremendous mental focus and intensity in preparation for games because they're the top of their, they're the top of their skills and so forth. So was it like being off the court, not being able to play the game? How's that affecting the mental health of the players?
Well, I think players, staff, and coaches in general, we're all extremely competitive people. We play or we work in basketball and sports because we want to win, and we thrive for that competition, mm-hmm. the opportunity to showcase our talents in front of people. So I think players are, eagerly awaiting the restart. I think that many of them have taken an opportunity to make sure that they're better people, better parents, and that they are paying attention to social issues and things like that. So I think our players have done very well. In my check-ins with our guys, they've normally been on a good schedule. They've figured out sleeping, and they've also begun helping, if they have young kids, helping with homework and things like that. So I think our guys have done a really good job of putting themselves in a position that when we do start back up, that they're going to be in a good place.
Now, with all the work they're doing with the players, do you have any tips for the rest of us that we should be following, like the players, to help keep ourselves at top of our game?
Absolutely. The first thing is, if you're working from home now, which most of us are, please get out of the bed, make your bed, and have a schedule. Do things like working out in the morning, praying in the morning, maybe even thinking about your gratitudes, doing something healthy for yourself in terms of food, and then get your day started like a normal work day. Go to a room in your house where you're not going to be distracted, where there's not a TV on and you can't lay down and things like that. You have to create an office of your own. So create accountability even with your fellow coworkers as to if you've gotten up and done those things, because it's so easy just to lay in the bed and let it be and watch the news,
No, that's true. Now, even though they're off the court, I know the Kings organization has not been just lying around watching TV. They've been busy out helping people in the pandemic. Can you share with us some of the things the Kings have been doing during the pandemic?
I think our organization, stepped up big in March in this together thing, and we have been on the forefront of it with our donations, education, and acts of kindness and things like that locally. Just to give you a few examples, thousands of meals have been donated to families and children in local area by Harrison Barnes, Bogdan Bogdanovich, De'Aaron Fox, Rashawn Holmes, and Corey as well. Corey, being a native of Canada, also was able to send some face shields and some things back to Canada with the assistance of Coach Roy Reyna, who is also Canadian. So they put some things together and did some meals for some kids in Canada as well. Bogey and Belly also teamed up with Vladi's Foundation to provide some ventilators, masks, and supplies and health care to the community in Serbia. And as a Kings organization, we donated $200,000 to community organizations, those hit hardest by the crisis. And the team also donated another 100,000 medical-grade masks to our healthcare community. And this is just the things that we actually put into press releases and things like that. A lot of our guys have just done blind acts of kindness towards people out here in this community, and they don't know where it's coming from. They just know that they're receiving good things to help them live and support their families.
Well, that's wonderful. Really appreciate that. Now, normally we really enjoy being able to see, live and in person, slams on the players, the dancers. How is the shelter in place and the physical distancing impacting community outreach for the Kings?
Yeah, well, just like anybody else, we're going to these virtual formats, Zoom, Teams. We're in these chat rooms and things like that. We've hosted virtual graduations for high school, colleges, and other things. We've provided videos for our junior Kings players to sharpen their skills with tips from our coaches. Our 2K gaming team has been out here and been, very visible online. But as we return to the gym, players have often used this to do weekly yoga classes and team meetings and things like that, like workout challenges. So, just moving our lives to a virtual life and, being with the status quo, we've had to find our way to that area as well.
Now, we can't wait for being able to see people in person, but we have to keep everyone safe. Virtual is the way to go right now, and certainly appreciate that outreach. Now, we don't only have COVID. Unfortunately, the ongoing crisis that we've had in this country with racism and police brutality has, again, returned to the fore, but should not recede in the background. The Kings have created a partnership with Build Black over the last 2 years. How have the Kings been involved in social justice in Sacramento more recently?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the main reasons that I was able to leave Detroit with a good conscience and a conscious mind to come here to Sacramento and be a part of this organization was the way that this team was planning to use the platform, and they didn't let me down in that endeavor. We've taken a lot of responsibility in this community. The Bill Black thing was huge. Around the death of Stephon Clark in 2018, we put this together, and there were some events. Over the past 2 years, we held over 40 events for kids that included community youth healing forums, STEM education workshops, and youth basketball leagues, and many, many more things. We've had players out to these communities to help, provide information and also provide a push. The coalition hosted nearly 2,500 area youth associations with the coalition to impact the lives of countless young people across this city. And most recently, we've created an additional pledge, a pledge to our black community, which continues to talk about the commitment that we make. We're going to really, really push on Election Day to make sure that we're electing, putting information out for people to vote in people who are going to really take these things serious for all people. And so we're really, really excited about seeing that happen, too.
No, that's very important. Leadership, certainly. Getting people to vote and understanding that engaging by voting is so very important. Some of these people don't realize how much of a difference it makes. Now, I'm an elected official, so I know what campaigning is all about. But I sometimes remind people, when you vote, even if your candidate doesn't win, you're at least on the record as having voted, meaning that you just told whoever won that seat that you care about what happens, and that actually matters. And so I really appreciate the fact that the Kings will be engaged in getting people to turn out and vote in the coming elections. Definitely. Now, the Kings took Juneteenth as a holiday. What did that mean to the employees and the players? I think it was a sign of care. I think it was a sign of recognition that, hey, we celebrate the 4th of July. We celebrate, all these different shows of independence. But are we respecting the fact that our black brothers and sisters basically became free during Juneteenth? Mm-hmm. Now, being from where I'm from, we know a lot about it because essentially the end of the Underground Railroad was in Detroit going into Canada. And so we're educated a lot on that, but I'm happy to say that the organization doing that gave the rest of us an opportunity to find out a little more information. And we actually did a lunch where we discussed it, and I think a lot of my cohorts here at work were very, very happy about us doing that. No, that's fantastic. It's a part of history that unfortunately too many of us are unaware of. And the fact was that it took years after the Emancipation Proclamation for Black Americans to finally realize that they were officially out of slavery. Right. Unfortunately, they still continue to confront challenges and difficulties, but at least it took a few years for people to realize that they were free, and we can celebrate that.
Sure. The memo didn't get there fast enough.
Yep. Yes. Now, how do you help players get more active in the community? I know many of them want to give back to the community and in using their platform for good. So what are some of the things that you do to help the players?
Sure. You have to remember this, and this is, I think, the first thing you have to remember about these guys is they're 6'9", 6'10", they're 200 and something pounds. They have this incredible athletic ability, but we have to remember that a lot of these guys are 19 years old. And when I get a hold of them at 19, I don't know about you, Dr. Pan, but I had no platform at 19. I was just a kid, just doing kid things. So I think you have to meet players where they are. There's a difference between a young rookie and a guy like Harrison Barnes who is, very, very set into a pathway of how he wants to do things. So I think you have to meet each player where they're comfortable. And then once I get them comfortable with a particular idea or a platform that they want to use, then I start pushing a little bit further from behind. And I push them into the forefront, and I ask them to do certain things, and I ask them to ask certain questions. And then we try to make that a more robust situation. As they grow, their platform grows.
Yeah, you got to think, for many of us at that age, we maybe finishing high school or just starting college and still trying to figure out what we're going to do with our lives. In the meantime, these players are, they're on TV. People are coming up to them, asking them, "What do you think about this or that?" And not always just about basketball and so forth. So no, that's a great insight into that. Now, I mean, do the players, do they sometimes come to you and say, "I really want to do something about X, I just don't know how to do this," or how does that work?
It happens like that sometimes. I had Marvin Bagley come to me and say, "Hey, I want to do something about voting." I was like, "Okay, well, let's get on it." So we did a small forum with some young people talking about the importance of voting and put out a PSA and a video. We plan to do more with him in that area. But I think, like you asked, it's really just one of those things where sometimes it's in a conversation, and a guy will tell me, "Hey, my mom has or had cancer." Mm-hmm. And I'll say, "Well, wow. Well, how are you supporting that? What's your idea about that?" And they say, "Well, I don't really know what I want to do." And that's when I can step in and say, "Okay, well, let's look at this. Let's look at this idea. Maybe we could do a game where we invite out survivors like De'Aaron Fox did and his mom. Maybe we team you with your mom so that maybe some of those things that you don't quite understand, she can step to the microphone and say." So, we definitely, try to meet the player where they are, and then we push them from behind and help them with that platform.
No, that's great. Now, well, we're all excited about the NBA season resuming. They said that I believe the first game is going to be on the end of July. So what are the plans to resume this year's NBA season?
Well, the plan is to go into a bubble in Orlando, a quarantine spot, more of a cantonment site where outsiders are not allowed in and our players are not allowed out. Kind of like a large AAU tournament, or if you like wrestling, like a steel cage match, where you put these people into this environment and the toughest one is going to come out. I think that our team, being young and used to those environments, having played in AAU tournaments and national championship tournaments for the NCAA and things like that they're well positioned to be able to attack something like this.
So what kind of mindset the players need to have when they get to Orlando? You said there's a different kind of environment than they're used to playing, although, as you mentioned, many of them are younger, so maybe this isn't so unfamiliar to them.
Sure. I think the part that you can't go anywhere off-site will be a little difficult for some. But in terms of basketball, look, if you get off to a good run early, you got a great chance. We have 8 games to get ourselves into a position where we're either in the 8th or the 9th spot to participate in a play-in game to get into the playoffs. So, the teams that get there get comfortable, get used to where they are, create momentum of their own, us against the world mentality. If they go in there and do that and they're adaptable early, those are going to be the teams that really, really are successful in this situation. Those that go in there hemming and hawing, arguing about why can't we go, why we're grown men, we should be able to go where we want to go, or those who don't embrace the fact that they're inside of this cantonment environment are not going to experience a good time there. I'm really looking forward to seeing what our guys do there because I think we have the mentality to go a long way.
That's great. So what can all of us do as fans to watch and cheer our team? You're not at the Golden Ones, so what do we need to do? Well,
there's a couple of things you can do. NBC Sports California and Sports 1140 TK, will be broadcasting the games. And we'll also have some nationally televised games that will show up on ESPN and some places as well. So, just stay tuned to your TV, download the Kings app, and make sure you're on board, scream as loud as you can. I think they're going to do some very unique things in the bubble that if people are online watching the games, I think they're going to have dots. So, you'll be able to see, who has more fans in there watching the game, like us or the Lakers. Or
is that a challenge?
Pardon me?
Is that a challenge for us?
Absolutely, 100%. We can feel your vibe. So even if you're not in the bubble with us, even if we're not in the same place, through Twitter, through Instagram and social platforms like that, encourage our guys. Tell them how much you care about them. Tell them how much you're supporting them. They love to hear those types of things, and they will definitely respond and play for you because they're all about the city of Sacramento.
Oh, that's fantastic. So we can do this virtually, and we can help our team get into the right mental mindset for this situation in Orlando. So what do you think are prospects for the rest of the season? We're going to do it?
Man, I'm pretty excited, man. I'm all about shocking the world, man. And, I think that this is an opportunity for our young guys to prove that they are just as good as anyone else in this league. I think that we're going to see our young superstars take a huge leap. You look around in here, and kind of the mantra has been, look, people can't run. They can't go to, they can't go to their fans, and they can't rely on their fans and people inside the building to move them along. It's going to be hardcore basketball, like a summer open gym or like an AAU tournament, like I said before. So if you have the right mentality, you go and attack this thing, the loudest, most boisterous together team is going to be in a great, great position to win. And I think we have those type of guys. We have guys who will bring it, and they're really excited. They look great when they've been working out individually in the facility here. So I'm super, super excited about seeing it.
That's fantastic. I'm excited too, and I know Sacramento is going to be 100% behind our team. And so thank you so very much for taking your time to speak to me and to share what you're working on and what the Kings have been working on during this past several months.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me on, Dr. Pan. And as always, go Kings.
All right. Go Kings.
All righty. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Putting the Public into Health by Dr. Richard Pan. If you have questions or ideas for a future podcast, please email them to senator.pan@senate.ca.gov. Please stay at home as much as possible. Stay at least 6 feet away from others outside. Wear a mask and wash your hands frequently. Together we are slowing the spread of the disease and saving lives. Thank you so much for listening.